Hello to Jonathan Franks, checking in from Galveston. Pedro-foiling sailor in rainy Ballina down in Oz, driving to the Sanctuary Cove Boat Show in half an hour. Good morning to you down there on a Saturday morning in Australia. Christopher Gillingham in Leamington, fair winds from the Solent. Denise Peterson in North Virginia. Joyce Chiarella out in Hawaii. Aloha, morning greetings, where it's Friday morning for her. Carlos Aviz in Brasilia down in South America, the capital of that beautiful country of Brazil. Cape Town checking in with Ted Ryman from the RSA, Republic of South Africa. Gordon Smith in Denmark. Stingray up in Seattle, where we could hit a record for this year, 60 degrees Fahrenheit. James Dickens, Watcha, Leamington also. Hello, James. Bill Wingrove, rainy day in Tampa Bay down in Florida. Maura Stevens, good afternoon from a sunny day in Halifax. Ed Worley up here in NorCal, my beloved mother. Mom made it.
Yay.
She usually does. Get this one off the dock. Welcome.
3, 2, 1.
See that? Nairobi, Kenya.
Right.
David and Adriana, Luz Adriana Leahy, I guess yes, it is. Welcome.
I think that's our first Kenyan. That's nice.
It is, I think, from memory. Magnus Wheatley, Magnus the Magnificent, checking in from the home of the America's Cup. I wonder if that means Barcelona or someplace else. Mary Longpree, wet in soggy, drizzly Newport Beach. That's unusual for this time of year. Gordon Smith, are they going to hit anything this time? Charleston, Peter Ham. What's that mean, Gordon Smith? Good morning, Tom and Julie. Alistair Murray down in Sydney, where it's early and only 5 degrees in Melbourne. He's in Melbourne, sorry, not Sydney. Luca Craig in Auckland. Greetings from paradise today, Tauranga.
Ah, yes.
Bay of Plenty. What a beautiful spot that is. Fritz Mueller in rainy Miami. They're all over the planet, Julia.
Isn't that nice?
It is nice. What a great group we have. Thank you, and welcome to all of you. Welcome to show number 524 for this Friday, the 20th of May, 2022. Julia, I didn't know we were going to make it on the air. We had breaking news. Clark Chapin saying, greetings from Summer Lake, Michigan, already liked and shared. Thank you, Clark. The start gun sequence, what Gordon Smith was referring to when he said, are they going to hit anything this time? The Commodore always goes like this when just before he fired that cannon. That's the Commodore Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron. Anybody, by the way, has a better kickoff video than that, or better music than our theme song, which I know some of you don't like. I like it. It's okay. Thanks to daughter Meg for finding that. But if somebody has a different cannon sequence, so it'd be nice to have something from the parade in Charleston or from the Royal Malta Yacht Club up there on what do they call it, the Battery? Or is that the parade?
I don't know.
It's Parade and Cows. It's the Battery in Charleston. I'm totally confused, as usual. Welcome to the show, everybody. We have some big news. One here's out of the America's Cup that we'll tell you about after we get through our normal opening sequence. John Emmett busted his proverbial pick to get us his report. It came in literally 9 minutes before we went to air, and I have to scramble around and get it in the show, which we did. Thanks, John, for that. Also for this photo from his, really, I guess what's his home yacht club, the Castle Cove Sailing Club in Weymouth.
Yeah.
And he's there, of course, shooting this film, Storm School. And they may be wrapping today, in fact. That's why he was on the water. Yeah, he was on the water so late. And today may have been, I'm not 100% sure, the last day of shooting. But he says it's going very well. We're really looking forward to seeing that. We also have some great news about another film that premiered last night about a yacht race. Documentary that we're going to have the director on next Tuesday, live on the show.
Ooh.
So we'll tell you about that in due course. Do you know what day it is today, Julia? That's your first clue.
Equal justice.
Close, but no cigar. There's your second clue.
Birmingham.
Anybody read Greek? That's the official seal of the International Bureau of Weights and Measures.
I believe that.
International Standards Day. Gordon Smith was close. He must have recognized that, or he did his research. Today is not Meteorology Day, it's World Metrology Day, as in meter, as in measurements, for global trade.
Well, isn't that good to know?
I had never heard of this. World Metrology Day, and that's how they pronounce it, pays tribute to the signature at the Meter Convention that occurred on the 20th of May, 1875. So just, 24 years after the first America's Cup, or AC0. The race around the Isle of Wight. The convention featured a coalition of 17 nations. They should have used the word that, I think, Julia, the grammarians that we are, that came together to establish a framework for global collaboration in the field of scientific measurement. The International Bureau of Weights and Measurements, the aforementioned, I won't try the French unless you want to, Julia, you being a francophone or a bit of one, is an intergovernmental organization through which its 59 member states act together on measurement standards in 4 areas: chemistry, ionizing radiation, physical metrology, I guess that means meters and weights and measures, and coordinated universal time, or UTC. It is based in Saint-Cloud, Paris, suburb of Paris, France. The organization has been referred to as the IBWM from its name in English in older literature. Now, these are the 59 signatories, most of the large first world nations, the U.S. and Canada, Brazil, looks like Australia, New Zealand,
Russia.
India, Russia, all of Western Europe, Central Europe, it looks like. So those are the nations. It looks like more than 59 countries to me, but whatever. And it's a bit of a deal.
It is.
Had no idea there was such a thing, did you?
Oh, but I'm glad there is.
World Metrology Day. Well, I know that we all knew, but probably you had heard of the International Bureau of Weights and Measures. But that's the point. The point is about this special day. Just following up here from one of either the last show or the show before, we were talking about winches on J-boats. And this photo comes from the Rosenfeld collection. And these are the precursors to the coffee grinders. These are the so-called rowing winches. You see the guys there sitting on the deck with these handles, which are attached to the bottom of the winches. And this guy's got his feet braced against the gunnel. He's got his feet braced, I don't know where. And this guy's apparently tailing. These are the rowing winches on the J-boat Endeavor in the 1934 America's Cup. That's sent to us courtesy of our Fozy Ed Worley, who's on here, and is a SoCal boy who's living up here now in Northern California. Thanks, Ed. Interesting. The rowing winches from that 1934 America's Cup. Now, this I mentioned a moment ago. The documentary is called The Race to Alaska, and it's won, as you can see there, all those awards that it's won across here.
Wow.
Zach Carver is the director. It's a Zach Carver production. He will be our guest on Tuesday, live via Skype, to tell us about this film. Now, The Race to Alaska, Julia, you may remember John Sangmeister has been telling us about that.
Yeah.
And he says this is really a cool event. It's, you get there by whatever means you can, sailing, but also you can use some minimal power. You can row, you can go ashore, I think, and tow the boat by hand. But we're going to hear all about it. It's been going on for some number of years. And it's a very cool event. And it attracts some very cool characters. And this gentleman, Zach Carver, is a sailor. Mm-hmm. And he's going to tell us about this film, which premiered last night, red carpet somewhere down in SoCal, LA, I guess. And it is rolling out in theaters across at least North America, U.S. and Canada, starting next week.
Ah, terrific.
So we'll have him on. That should be fun. That is next Tuesday's show. A little bit more about him. Zach Carver, director, writer, producer, originally from Seattle. So Stingray, maybe you know of him. Zach Carver is an award-winning writer-director who graduated from CC, Colorado College, and holds an MF, a Master of Fine Arts, in film directing from Columbia University in New York City. His short film, Sin Matador, without Matador, premiered at the Aspen Shorts Fest and won the prize for the best comedy short at the Long Beach Film Festival. speaking of John Sangmeister, his short Amateur Dictator, we won't talk about how you make a dictator, won the Audience Award at the Austin Film Festival and is currently, so that Austin Film Festival, maybe, who knows if any of our Texans know about this guy, and is currently in development for a series with Fidelio Columbia, whoever that is. I've not heard of them. His films have screened at the Seattle International Film Festival, Brooklyn Film Festival, Hawaii International Film Festival, Festival de Cine de Lanzarote, Festival de Cine de Tenerife, and the Vesak International Buddhist Film Festival in Sri Lanka. He also works as a director of photography and a DP for DirecTV, Fusion Networks, taste-made white brain films, and many short narrative projects. He's a licensed captain, an avid sailor, and a visual artist. He's also been the Race to Alaska film boss for 6 years.
Wow, interesting guy.
So Julie, he sounds like the real deal.
Yep.
I've not talked to him. I've talked to one of his outreach PR people, and really sounds like it's going to be an interesting show next Tuesday. By the way, I don't think we're going to do a show on next Friday, Julia, because that is our 3-day weekend, Memorial Day weekend. You're going to Calistoga. I'm going to go up in that direction too, to how do you say it? Gualala.
Gualala.
Go up and see one of our friends there, and then come over to Calistoga and see you and hang out. But we're not going to do a show next Friday.
And we'll miss you, but...
We'll miss you, and we'll miss all the prep going into Friday's show. We're going to take a long weekend. So thank you. Yeah. But don't miss the show on Tuesday. I think this guy's going to be the real deal. Luca Devoti is much better. I'm pleased to report. Been talking with him. We're putting him off sometime in June when he's back, not traveling, when he can check in and tell us about his new One Design, whatever these, I'm not sure what he's called about. I have the video, but I haven't looked at it closely. And he's got a new One Design moth that he thinks is going to be the bee's knees, the next big deal in foiling monohulls, small, single-handed foiling monohulls. Luca, glad to hear you're well. A lot of people, Julia, up in this neck of the woods are getting this, whatever this latest COVID is, BA6 or BA5, I don't know. Probably time to get Andrew McIrvin back on.
Yep.
And also ask him about the bloody monkeypox.
Yes.
That seems to be breaking out all over. And then what's this about you told me last night you were seeing on the news about the WHO wanting to take over the health departments of every country?
Yes.
Tell us all what we have to do and can't do.
And the U.S. Congress has just approved it.
They did today? I doubt it. That'll never happen.
But, I mean, on FOSS, it looks quite harmless. But when you delve into it, it sort of looks, if you read it directly, you can't do anything internationally without the approval.
I don't even like turning things over to Washington, D.C., let alone to some agency. And where's the WHO? Switzerland someplace? Okay, enough of that. This is the WHO show. Sorry I'm late. My eyelids were shut, Jody Shields, where it's early in the morning down in Wanji, north of Sydney. Monkeypox. Yes, check it out, Stingray. That apparently got Jody's attention. Stingray saying also up above there, the R2A, the race to Alaska, R2AK. AK is the 2-letter code here in the States for the state of Alaska films. Those films are truly stunning, gorgeously done.
And I like the next line. I wonder what he does for fun.
Okay, we'll have him on. And that, again, is Tuesday's show. We're going to talk about the race to Alaska. I have a new starting line photo, image, courtesy of the Star Class. This was the Star Europeans, I think, is where I found that. Nice photo, though. I was getting tired of that other one from out here in front of the bay. Now, thanks to some quick action here by John and my terrific team, Julia, here in the control room.
Yes. All 24 of them.
24 of them. We managed to get John's film from today, his submission, his video up and running just literally a few minutes before we went to air, and enjoy. Master Mentor John Emmett.
Hi, well, they say if you love what you do for a living, you never need to work a day in your life. But today was a pretty hard day in the office, so hopefully Tom will get the report in time. So great to see you, Tom, Julia, and of course all the Fozy. This is literally filmed, I guess, half an hour before the show goes live. I hope you can use it. Can't actually really show you much of the stuff in the background, but I'm sure you can guess what I was doing. And yeah, absolutely passionate about sailing. And when you have those long days on the water, and believe me, this was the definition of a long day, I think you look back in a few years' time and you know it was worth it. I'm going to keep this short, maybe short and sweet, but it's amazing how many times you make time for things which is important to you. I may even make the live show. We'll have to see how it goes. And I think next week I'm in Holland. Yes, I'm in Almere. Which is quite hard to say because I spent over 20 years saying Medemblik. Cracking day, and you know, I'm biased. I think Weymouth's a great venue, but it really proved it today. And can't wait to get back on the water tomorrow. Hopefully see you soon.
Now, that's the first time he submitted a video that I didn't watch. Check out before we aired it. He could have said, Julia, you and Tom are a bunch of croutons. He could have said anything. And we would have let it run because we know he's not that kind of a guy. John Emmett, our terrific guy that he is. Get to the front of the fleet, John Emmett Sailing. He's a master mentor and coach. His segment today was not brought to you by Oton Beer. Now, do you, Julie, have any idea what look at the look on your face? Do you have any idea what Oton Beer? Well, that's why we ran this, because we know how curious all of our foesy are. John Gillette, I like that, Ted Ryman. John Gillette, did you see that?
Yeah.
A glass of cider is going to be a treat this evening, John. What a fantastic, well, they're doing that film. NATO, yes, Ted Ryman's got it. This was a headline I saw in the Washington Post this morning, where democracy dies in darkness. Interesting. That Mr. Bezos has seemed to change. He's changed tack. He's gone from port tack to starboard tack, all of a sudden being critical of the Biden administration. New beer with a taste of security was the headline in the Washington Post. Celebrates Finland's NATO bid. Beer. Now I'm awake, Jody. So this is a new beer, a NATO beer in Finland. And I thought, since John's been coaching Finnish sailors, we should run with this quick segment on Oton beer. And of course, as you know, Oton is all those international organizations like the Olympic Committee and so on. They use both the French abbreviation Otan as well as the English language and NATO, North American Treaty Organization. Finland's application this week, this is from the Washington Post, to join NATO is a sign of tense times. And for one brewery, that's a good reason to say, Otan Oluta. Oluta? Don't know, John. Mm-hmm. Finnish for, I'll have a beer. Peter Salwin saying, yeah, Otan is the French spelling of NATO. Thanks. Mm-hmm. Olaf Brewing, a small brewery near the Finland-Russia border, has rolled out a new lager called Otan, a play on the Finnish expression and the French acronym for the security alliance it seeks to join. Vantanen, he's the guy that owns a brewery, said he will continue to sell the lager, quote, at least for the summer season 2022. Apparently it's flying off the shelves. Mm-hmm. In an interview with the Associated Press, Vantanen described Otan as having, quote, a taste of security with a hint of freedom.
That's lovely.
Remember that the old cartoon about the wine tasting and the waiter's coming out and he's got a cigarette in his mouth and the ash is falling off the tip of the cigarette into the wine, and the guy who's the wine snob who's doing this doesn't see this happening. He says, it's got a taste of blackberry and a hint of tobacco. I don't know why I'm such a crazy mood, because this news that we're going to bring to you is pretty crazy.
Yes.
Okay, a major one here is about the AC30 venue, as you will have seen at the top of the show. Welcome to our show number 524. If you're just joining in, this is our AC37 Cup date, and I'm going to start, and this is not a tease, I just want to start with some interesting and good news about Horonuku. I'll try to get that right. Horonuku, which is this quest by Emirates Team New Zealand, and especially Glenn Ashby, who is going to be piloting this land vehicle as they attempt to break the land speed sailing record. Here's their latest video just out. They're testing at an Air Force base in New Zealand before they go to Australia.
Why are they going to Australia?
Because they're better wind on a better better dry bed, I guess.
I might almost be able to get going on my own here with the angle. Okay. Possibly. Give it a go. Give it a go.
Yeah, Fritz Muller saying it's a salt lake, a dried lake bed that they'll be running in Australia. A dried lake bed, David James saying. So this is at this Air Force base where they're testing.
Was it? Were you struggling? No, it was not bad.
Alistair Murray's going to do a personal profile of Glenn. I still think Glenn is the heart and soul of Emirates Team New Zealand. That's why Pete and Blair are struggling in Sail GP. They don't have Glenn.
Oh, mate, it was. I had sheeted on. I sort of got sheeted on. It's got this massive puff, and I was just like, ease, and I was still on my way. I'm just shot me back to the middle, so I was like full noise back on again to get it back straight again. But that's good. Probably no different to your bus, mate, when you were. It's probably a little bit less side load for you. You're probably just more like getting pressing the back of your seat.
And I can't remember the speed. Maybe Stingray or somebody else will remember. They got to 100 and something, 128 kilometers per hour. I saw on some other report somewhere. Yeah, Jonathan Frank, of course, who is a pilot for United, says V1 rotate, and that's of course when the plane's getting down the runway at a certain speed, and they pull back on the yoke and rotate the nose of the plane off the runway. You know what V2 is?
Vector 2.
No, that's this velocity V2. Yeah. After which you're screwed with a capital F.
Oh yeah.
If you try to take off, if you don't take off because you got too much speed, you're going to go off the end of the runway. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jonathan Frank. Bobby Steele's on. He was saying lift off as well. That's why the pilots call V1 than V2, because it can be rotated, but they can still stop it at V2 if they stop before V2. But once they're at V2, they're going to run off the end of the runway. Bonneville is not good enough for the Kiwis. Bonneville Salt Flats in, where's that? Utah, I guess. Bill Wingrove asking. Is that in Utah? Nevada? I can't remember. Seems to have a good bit of steering lead to it, pulls to the left. Pedro Foiling say that they're going to Australia, not America, because we don't drive on the right-hand side of the road. Ted Ryman, I'm not sure about that thing. Looks a bit flimsy to be doing 120 miles per hour. And I don't know. I think it looks pretty okay. I just wonder if it's going to be fast. How fast it'll be. What's the record, Stingray, that they have to break? Do you know that offhand? Stingray saying, yes, they hit 128 kph yesterday. So what's 128 is, call it 130 times 66?
Stingray also says later Greenberg record is 202 kph. So
that's 120 miles because it's 0.66, right? Kph to miles per hour. For those of us who have not been following the metrology day. Utah, yeah, it's in Utah, Clark J. I don't think Bonneville has enough wind. Yeah, the dry lake beds are the reason they go up there to do the land speed powered records is because they don't have a lot of wind. I think they're secretly studying aerodynamics at high speeds with this, and the same with the hydrogen engines for foil testing. Baton Cannon is saying, aka Baton Rouge. What's it in knots? Jonathan Frank. It's Friday and Saturday for you all down under, and late night in Europe on a weekend. Okay, nice video. Let's get into what the big news is here. You know who this lady is, Julia? She is the mayor of Barcelona, Ada Colau. I guess you pronounce that. Ada Colau. She's the one who on the 28th of March leaked that we'd been telling you for weeks that it was going to go to Barcelona. That is, the AC37 venue decision was going to be made, and indeed, she did say on the 28th of March. It was the next day. Well, here it is from stuff.co.nz when she made the announcement. Then we'll talk about the next day. The mayor of Barcelona has announced the next America's Cup will be sailed in her city in 2024. In a video posted on social media on her Facebook page, Mayor Ada Colau said the Spanish city had been chosen to host the 37th Cup Regatta. This ahead of the internet of the formal announcement. quote, attention, we have great news for the city sport and economy. Barcelona will host the 2024 America's Cup sailing, unquote, Colau wrote on her Facebook page. By the way, she has a very active Facebook page.
Does she?
Yeah, I went to her page, and I commend it to you. She's got all sorts of stuff about all sorts of things going on in Barcelona.
Lovely.
And I guess most people use Twitter in the government here and maybe elsewhere, but she's got a massively cool, with lots of photos, Facebook page.
Okay.
The mayor. Okay, so the next day was the formal announcement on the 29th when Grant Dalton announced the Barcelona venue for AC37 formally with these two gentlemen. This is a publicity image released by Team New Zealand that day that the Cup would be sailed in Barcelona, pictured with Roger Torrent, Minister of Business and Labor for the government of Catalonia, of course, is the region in which Barcelona sits, and Damià Calvet, the president of the Port of Barcelona. Okay, so that's just by way of background. All of you probably know that. Now the story gets interesting, apropos our one here's. Yeah, Formula One is there this weekend, Ted Ryman is saying. And by the way, Ted, that is a terrific race. The Spanish Grand Prix. I had some very fond memories from that and the Auto Club of Spain and so on and so forth in that city. It's a terrific race indeed. Was Ada Colau's tongue speaking in knots? Stingray. Well, we'll see, because one hears the Cup's going to court in New Zealand. Why and how? Well, you remember this gentleman who's been on our show, the leading QC, Queen's Counsel, and longtime RNZ honorary member James Farmer. Jim Farmer, great sailor of the year, offshore sailor of the year in New Zealand at one point. As I say, he's been on the show, what, Julia, once or twice?
Maybe twice, yeah.
And just a no BS guy. He's been a trustee of Team New Zealand. He's been on the Challenger Commission when I chaired it, and he just is I've known him long and well, and he is straightforward and cool. And he wrote on he has a blog that he writes from time to time about some legal matter or some other matter in New Zealand. And on the 4th of April, he wrote, Team New Zealand, quote unquote, no longer. It has been said on behalf recently, in response to the All Blacks analogy, that it is not a national team representing New Zealand, but now it's a private company, now that they've taken the venue offshore. A private company, sure, parenthesis, though one that is said to be a charitable trust with the object of advancing the interests of yachting, parenthesis, but funded hugely by public funds. He says $500 million over the years, $500 million Kiwi. And if that is how it sees itself now, just remove New Zealand from its name. Jim Farmer's post to his legal blog on the 4th of April. Now, you know what's happened? Mr. Farmer has been canceled. The board, the committee as they call it, the board of the RNZ have kicked him out of the club. He's no longer an honorary member. Now, to be fair, they've offered him, he's been an honorary member forever. He's done so much for the club and for yachting. They have a number of honorary members. They've canceled him, except they have now offered him a full, pay as you will, the full board membership. Now, whether he'll get accepted is a whole other issue, but at least they've offered him that. But otherwise, they've canceled his honorary membership because of his opposition to the event going offshore. That's just, Julie, that's just step one. What do you think of that?
I think that's awful.
By the way, nobody said hashtag where's the scarf on you. You got some kind of fancy jewelry on again.
Yes.
Nice. So that's step one. Step two, one hears also that our good friend Dr. Hamish Ross, and I try as I might, I don't get anything out of him of substance. He's all clammed up, but I'm hearing from other people down there that the RNZ is also acting against their longtime member, Dr. Hamish Ross. And I think, I'm not sure, but there's some kind of a hearing going on with respect to him continuing in the club. Long story short, I hear they're canceling Dr. Ross as well. Or, unless something turns up at this. I don't know if the hearing has already happened or it's coming up this week, but they're after him as well.
For contradicting the...
For not towing the line, not supporting the move to Barcelona.
Yeah.
Hamish famously, I haven't run it on here, but he wrote in the New Zealand Law Journal a long piece laying out in great detail why the Cup should not be going offshore, why it could not be going offshore. The Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron's breach of trust, yada, yada. I won't bore you all with that now. Well, when he published that article, I heard that they were going after him. So, yeah, Jonathan Frank, you're out as an honorary member of you. We'd love to have you back at the regular rate. Julia, Stingray's just called you Cleavage Illustrated. James Dickens says, but everyone loves a paella. Yeah, I lived in Valencia for 8 years. We love paella. How to Ruin My Weekend, Gordon Smith is saying.
Yes.
Stingray saying, but I have $3,000 down payment on an apartment in Barcelona. So all I can tell you, we're going to tell you some more here. If you have any down payments or you've got plane tickets, I hope they're refundable because this isn't going to go well, I don't think. And I'll tell you some more. Okay, remember this gentleman?
Yes.
He's been on the show, I think, twice. Mm-hmm. He's also leaving the squadron, and I can't find out if they've kicked him out or if he's just quit before they could kick him out, resigned. I don't know what's going on, but no one will tell me. But there's a lot of back and forth and up and down about Mr. Mark Dunphy, who, of course, is the founder and titular head of Kiwi Home Defense. Stop the Cup Sailing Away. Remember their big campaign that we featured on the show any number of times. Mm-hmm. New Zealand should be the home, the America's Cup 2024, and the Kiwi Home Defense. The team at Kiwi Home Defense, which is a lot of people who've given money and who've given moral support and so on across the country. Yeah, they're committed to supporting the AC Defense, the Defenders Team New Zealand, and to keep the Cup in their home waters on the mighty Waitemata. A recent poll revealed the vast majority of Kiwis want Team New Zealand to defend the America's Cup in Aotearoa. In New Zealand, that's the Maori name, of course, for New Zealand, the land of the long white cloud. Kiwi Home Defense was established by a group of proud New Zealanders and spearheaded by this gentleman, Kiwi businessman Mark Dunphy. The goal of KHD is to assist with and arrange financial support for Team New Zealand to create a viable and successful at-home defense of the America's Cup 2024. And, of course, we knew that. We've been watching this group. And their mission, again, is to keep New Zealand as the home of AC37. We want Kiwis to be the hosts. Let's come together as a crew of 5 million people in New Zealand and show the world we are the only America's host for 2024. Well, their site's been pretty quiet since the announcement was made of Barcelona.
Yeah.
But one hears now things are heating up again as we've been telling you now.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, Julie Aarons and a couple others of you I just got texts from you. I mean, it was a rough morning for me. But what are you doing? What are you going to do? I said, tune into the show and find out. Because one hears that this Kiwi Home Defense crowd and many more are going to go to court. And it is this gentleman, who you don't hear a lot about. I have not asked him on the show, but maybe it's time to do it. He is this, that's a headline from the New Zealand Herald, retired from when was that? I think in December. Yeah. Retired senior judge warns the yacht squadron he'll sue if it takes the America's Cup offshore. And everybody said, oh, he's not going to do that. He's old and he's retired, and why does he want an S fight at this stage in his life? Well, guess what? One hears that this December warning of Sir Ted Thomas, former New Zealand, he was in their appellate court system. I think he was also on what they call now their Supreme Court, their top court, like our Supreme Court here in the States. That apparently was not just a threat. He's apparently they've got, one hears, some big money that's going to bankroll this thing, and it's going to go to court. So I don't know what's going to happen to Mr. Dalton and to his Barcelona effort, but, this is, remember
We've just begun to hear, I think.
I think we have. And it's bad for the Cup, it's bad for the sport, but if they just kept it in New Zealand to begin with, they wouldn't have had any of these problems, and I suspect now they're going to have some big problems. Remember this quote about absolute power? I cannot accept. This is the whole quote. I'd never found this whole quote. We know the shorter power tends to corrupt and absolute power corrupts absolutely. I cannot accept your canon that we are to judge Pope and King unlike other men with a favorable presumption that they do no wrong. If there is any presumption, it's the other way, against holders of power. Power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Now, you know who said that?
No.
A Brit. I'm a new follower of his. John Dalberg Acton, Lord Acton, who interestingly lived through that 1800 period, including when the America's Cup got off the ground, 1834 to 1902.
I'm glad to know that whole code.
He was a bit of a states' rights and local rights. I read a bit about him this morning. He also sided with the South in our Civil War, saying that they have the right to decide locally what they want to do, if they want to have slavery or not, if they want to control cotton gins or not.
Yeah.
But he also sided with local Irish home rule. So here's just one quick note about the guy. In 1869, so soon after that first AC0 in 1851, Queen Victoria raised Acton to the peerage as Baron Acton of Aldenham in the county of Shropshire. His elevation came primarily through the intercession of their then PM Gladstone. The two were intimate friends and frequent correspondents. Matthew Arnold said that Gladstone influences all around him, but Acton, it is Acton who influences Gladstone. Apparently this guy was hugely influential. Acton was appointed to the Royal Victorian Order as Knight Commander KCVO in the 1897 birthday honors by Her Majesty Queen Victoria. He was also a strong supporter of Irish home rule. So just a little bit of an education on all of that, John Emmett.
Consistent.
Yeah. Dang, I thought it was Vanderbilt. AC37 would make a good Netflix soap opera. How about a kangaroo court to resolve the dispute, or a boxing kangaroo bout, 12 rounds, Bobby Steele? Oh, Bob down in SoCal. I saw him sign on a few minutes ago. So I'm back to the previous slide. When you let one guy have all the power and the yacht squadron bows to him, and apparently nobody else has any other influence, does Mr. Dalton have the absolute power, and has it gotten him into trouble? As John Dalberg, Lord Acton,
absolutely
said. So that's the one here's. Now, how is that going to happen? There's going to be a judicial review of...
At what level?
Well, that's a very good question. It's going to be a judicial review, and it's a civil case. So it starts out in what's called their high court, which is like our superior court in California. It's like what's called the Supreme Court in New York. It's the trial court. It's the lowest level. That's the first bit. Second bit, there's two courts above that, appellate courts, an appellate division, and then there's Supreme Court. So one hears they're going to go to court, this whole group, and again, follow the money. Apparently they've got real money. That's the key thing. And remember, and I don't know if this is true or not, but one of the people who was backing this group strongly was Sir Michael Fay, who's very affluent. He's got a lot of dough, and he's got some health issues, but he's also a very strong, tough guy. I did battle with him, and we become over the years quite good friends since. They've also got the lawyer Andrew Johns, whom we used to call Carrot Top, who's a very bright guy. He's the one who found the loophole. He read the deed and said, hey, we don't have to wait for San Diego to announce what boat they're using and when this thing's going to be. We can file a challenge right now under the deed of gift.
Yeah.
A surprise challenge. Some people called it a rogue challenge, but Andrew John's a smart character, smart guy. He's a vegetable farmer now, I think, down in the South Island, and an affluent one as well. He's doing very well, so one hears. Now, I haven't talked to him in a long time, but I'm going to. So apparently he's going to court, and they're going to ask for a judicial review of these people being kicked out of the club, which sounds a little bit like the yacht squadron scoring their own goal by doing this. They've kind of incited all of this.
Yeah.
And gotten people exercised and upset and motivated to go to court. So I'm going now to go to correct or crutonic and ask all of you, Jody Shields would be asking you, whether it's correct or crutonic that this is going to court. And that is the High Court in Auckland. Beautiful old building.
Oh, it is.
Beautiful old building. It was, in fact, just while we're on this learning curve, apparently originally it was the Supreme Court in New Zealand, and then became, as they added the appellate divisions and moved it to Wellington and whatever, they've got another building. So the cup is headed to court, assuming I'm right, and my one hears is accurate, and these people who tell me that this is happening are accurate, and I've heard from more than one person. I ask you, is it correct or crutonic? Is it good that the cup is going to court?
Oh, lots of comments.
Are there? Julia, where do we start? I'm going to start my sound is out of sync. My sound? 1, 2, 3. Sorry, Bobby Steele. Hope not. Ooh, Acton's quote goes on. Power tends to, Clark Chapin. Yeah. Power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Great men are almost always bad men. Yes, I didn't keep going. He had more things to say. By the way, he was a big friend of de Tocqueville's, my hero.
Yes.
Who else? Jody Shields. Tom, I'm not up to date with the America's Cup venue selection. Can you explain it to me? Back. I'm going back to sleep. What will they argue with, Paul? I hope I just laid that out. Apparently, they're going to argue that the trusteeship, that they violated their own trust and duties. And I'm not sure what all. They won't tell me. They're going to, but all I hear is that they've got money and they're moving forward and that they're all energized.
Court action will be painful, but the question of where the defender must hold the race needs to be discussed and decided.
Yeah, Ed Worley, good point. And by the way, I don't think the deed requires, unlike some of you, and Hamish Ross thinks that the deed requires that it be held in the waters of the club. I don't agree with that. I don't think that's what the deed says. I think that a club qualifies to be a challenging club that has an annual regatta on an arm of the sea. For its annual regatta on an arm of the sea. So that's why a club like my little club in Michigan, Clark Chapin and I grew up at, this tiny little 650-acre lake, can't challenge the America's Cup. That was put in to stop the Canadian clubs from coming down after they embarrassed themselves so badly in the 1870s and 80s. Mm. So is it correct or crutonic? The cup, assuming I'm right, my one hears is correct, and so far I haven't made I may be off by a shade of gray, but I'm not telling you black when I'm hearing it's white. Julia.
Ted Ryman says, in replying to Paul Helmchick, is it treason? And Ed Worley says, correct, unfortunately.
It depends on what they claim. Paul Homchick is saying, Daniel Grun, it is silly and will go nowhere. Daniel's one of the he's in Augsburg in Germany, and he's a big fan of this event, going to Barcelona. Yeah. Big fan of Team New Zealand's, as is Julie Ahrens. He says it's silly, it'll go nowhere. Well, Daniel, I'm sorry to say this, Daniel, and I appreciate your input. He's all the time sending me. This guy, by the way, Daniel Grun is more up to date as a German on American politics than you and I are.
Absolutely. I see
the guy is very well read, and he knows what is going on. He knows what's going on in state politics here in the U.S. sometimes before I do. And I'm a keen current affairs buff, as you know. Mm. Will Barcelona be asked to supply evidence? And I don't have any idea, Stingray. James Dickens, sorry to say, correct. Good luck, Kiwis. Interesting. So you think this move to court, if it happens, is correct. Gordon Smith, you just said that it was an issue about membership of the club. That is not. Well, that's the thing that has, Gordon, that has motivated this. And now they're going to ask the court for judicial review on all these issues, on their fiduciary duty, on everything else around this decision to take the cup offshore. This guy, Ted Thomas, is that his name? Mm-hmm. He is, people said, oh, he's old, but they say that about you and me, Julia. Of course, they'd be right. They'd be right about us. Is it correct or crutonic? Russell Green is a very good lawyer too, Daniel Grun says. I know Russell very well indeed, and I've done several cup campaigns with him. I actually was a bit of a mentor to him, bringing him in international judging and umpiring. And he's a good judge and umpire as well. He just did Congressional Cup. He was the chief judge or umpire there. Rob Fry keeps it in the news at least. Well, there's an interesting but sadly correct point. Mm-hmm. Refresh and the sound will resync. Ted Ryman is telling Bobby Steele. Bobby, got to get a new computer maybe. I like a good fight. It's correct, Ted Ryman says. It's necessarily crutonic. So Jonathan Frank says, yeah, it's too bad it's necessary. It's crutonic, but probably. Wingrove says it's correct. Power to them to hold Dalt's feet to the fire over this. Stingray, my belief is that the mutual consent reference to courses applies to race courses, not to venues. Well, Stingray, I'm not so sure, but I see your point.
Yeah.
I mean, I do. That's other people's point as well. Wingrove, changing the venue from one site to another within a country is not bad. Going halfway around the world is another matter, Julia.
I agree with that.
I do too. Sewage, Clark Chapin keeping his language clean. Sewage fights rarely benefit anybody. I definitely need an Otan beer. John Emmett, he's gotten to that part. An Otan beer. So, you know, I'm sorry to go back to that, but you know how the Romance languages, the adjectives and the adverbs are after the noun. So Otan is organization, treaty, Atlantique, Nordique, or whatever it is in French. I'm not a Francophone, I'm a French speaker. So that's why it's OTAN, not, and of course we have the North Atlantic Treaty Organization.
Yeah.
Gordon Smith, I think the court will not entertain a minestrone soup of issues to rule on. We'll see. We'll see how they posit this. There's a new Storstress Mark II. All of a sudden I miss Ernesto's AC33 Vision with a 90-footer monohull. Interesting point.
Yes.
Don't we all?
Yes.
Fritz Mueller, you would think that Cup winners would have gone to bat to change the deed to require defense be on home waters to perpetuate the business. That's too hard to do that. Trying to change the deed is really difficult. I recon it's dry bread. What's that mean? Is that a typo, Jody Shields? Bobby Steele, New Zealand, from all the reports, need all the tourists, yachts, fans, super yacht visits, and recognition of their technology. To ship it offshore is a huge loss. Bobby Steele, of course, is a very bright, well-connected guy here in SoCal. I've done a lot of sailing with him on It's Okay and maybe one or two other boats. Crouton, oh, I see. Crouton is dried bread. Thanks, Fritz Mueller. Mm-hmm. I reckon Jody Shields is saying, I reckon it's dry bread. It's croutonic.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see if it goes to court in the first place. We'll see how long it is tied up, if it does. But this is another one of those things, probably, Julia, like COVID, where you think, well, we're going to flatten the curve for 2 weeks and then everything's going to be fine. And here we are 2.5 years later.
I know.
And, a lot of our good friends here at St. Francis, a number of our good friends at St. Francis have it. And by the way, have rather a bad go of it, even though they're double vaxxed and boosted, all three of them. I talked to both of them last night. Double vaxxed, who are my close-in friends, Fozy, in fact, double vaxxed and boosted, so 3 jabs, and they've still got it, and they got it bad. I mean, one guy says, I've been coughing out my lung, and he doesn't have any, he's fit, okay, he's old, he's our age, not your age, my age, even younger than I think he's only 60. I don't think you want to get this, but still, it sounds also like we're all going to get it. Okay, I digress as usual. Back to should have always been in New Zealand. Fight to bring it back, Greg Phillips is saying. Graham Sweeney, take it to court. Let them slug it out. Jody Shields, I'd rather be locked up for 10 days with Baby Shark on repeat in my headphones than have to watch the AC go to court. Jody.
I'll repeat the quote to you later. Yeah.
Okay, we shall. Maybe we'll lock him up sometime. We'll get Leo Takahashi next time he's down there staying with Jody to tie him up, put his headphones on, and play Baby Shark over. We'll see how long he lasts. David James, when my team got back from Antigua Sailing Week, half had COVID. Yeah, I heard that, David.
Ooh.
And there's some others that. Okay, so. We got to get Andrew McIrvin back on here. We haven't had him on in a long time.
Yeah.
He's been busy in the Caribbean.
Yeah, the stuff is said that everybody's getting it, but it's a different one, which is why the vaccines aren't working on it.
Well, it's not as deadly as the Alpha or Delta, but it's hugely transmissible.
Yes,
like measles almost now. You look at somebody cross-eyed, and you get it. I'm surprised we haven't had it.
Oh, well, we've been pretty good, though.
Well, I know, but what's pretty good? I will be very interested, Morris Stevens says, in the argument they make. Will they argue about how the team corporation is set up versus the team yacht club is outlined in the AC deed? There could be legal implications that could affect the other syndicates. Will Hamish come on and explain the issues? I haven't asked him. So far, he's declining to talk to me. Ed Worley. But, sooner or later, I'm sure we'll get him on. But remember, if you go to court, and if this gets into court, and I'm pretty sure it's heading to court, you got discovery. And they're going to start asking for all sorts of papers, emails, memoranda, checks. And I think you might start finding out things that people and adults on ETNZ's side didn't want to be in the public domain.
Could be in both sides.
Realm. Which variant of COVID does Dalton have now? The C variant. I hope nobody gets it. I hope Mr. Dalton doesn't get it. I hope nobody gets it. And by the way, their PM got it down there,
Yeah.
The New Zealand Prime Minister had it, Cindy, and apparently she's okay now. Good. I'm glad to hear she is. So you talked about Russell Green. There he is on the left. And my control room. What a great team I have in the control room. They were able to pull that picture up, Julia.
We couldn't do without them.
Now, I stuck that in when I prepared the show this morning because Russ is a good guy. He's a very smart lawyer. And I thought this was a great caption contest. Russell Green and Grant staring at the cup, the fine print on the cup, which is the results over there. Let's don't do it now because this show is going to be plenty long as it is. There's a lot going on. But caption contest, anyone? We'll, if you send us in the comments and we don't get to them, we'll use them next Tuesday's show. Any other comments before we move on with all of that? Ed Worley, discovery will not be fun for ETNZ or RNZYS. Yes, that's correct. Replying to Stingray's, the AC variation. Okay, that's clever. KHD would have to show who they paid for PR and media work, Gordon Smith is saying. Yeah. Jeannie hoping for a wish. Well, I'm sure there's always a little bit of that, Fritz Miller. But, I just tell you what, Julia, my guess is, I've been saying,
yes,
not very strongly, but I've been saying all along, I still think it's going to end up back in Auckland.
Yes.
Now, how you undo all the contracts they've got with Barcelona and the money that's been spent and all that stuff and by the way, one here's this morning, I heard from two different teams or people. I heard directly from one team and indirectly from another team. The teams are obviously not amused.
No.
Because if this is true, if this is going back to court, and so they're checking around.
Yeah.
And one of you who's on here who's very well connected pinged me this morning and said, are you going to be reporting? And he'd also heard about Sir Ted Thomas. He said, Are you going to be reporting that on the show? And I said, yes. He said, well, all I can dig up so far is that it's a rumor. I said, well, tune in because it's more than a rumor.
Yeah.
And people know it. Has the court action actually been filed, Stingray asks, or is this still just a rumor? It has not been filed, but they're moving forward, as far as I know. Jonathan Frank, if we find out where that Hungarian TV money went, that might that might be interesting.
Oh, that's interesting. I'd forgot about that.
Yeah. Well, it's not just the Hungarian TV money. It's the $1 million that they apparently never found.
Yeah.
Or at least they said they didn't
Yeah.
find or recover. Okay. Last chance for comments on this topic before we move forward to, if they are forced to have it in Auckland, it would be like French kissing your auntie. Not good. What kind of a comment is that, Jody?
I don't think, it could be a celebration.
I'm trying to think if I ever French kissed any of my aunts.
I hope not.
I had a crush on one of my aunts. That wasn't a blood relative. She's long gone now. My dad's adoptive sister. Oh, she was cool.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I quite a crush on her. Aunt Mavis.
Ooh.
Ooh. If my mother's on here, she's going to say, what? Julie Aarons, you don't want to hear my view. Please, Julie. Jody is odder than me, Graham Sweeney saying, it sounds like a monkey. What? Effing a football. Oh, a monkey effing a football. Well, I'll tell you what it is. It's a Fuster cluck of magnificent proportions. I haven't said that in a while, but that's clearly what this is. So Dunphy is going to be banging the corners. Okay, you guys and gals. This day in history, do you know what happened on the 20th of May? Get us off the cup for a minute. Keep us in Europe, though. In 1498.
1498.
In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. He sailed and said, okay, this is not that. This is 1498. Here's your second clue. Any idea who that is?
The King of Spain.
No. He's Portuguese.
Oh, Portuguese. Oh,
yeah.
yes, of course. Yeah.
That is Vasco da Gama. Yeah, the explorer, navigator. He apparently was a very smart, cool guy, tough guy. And on this date, Vasco da Gama was the first European explorer to reach India by sea, helping to establish Portugal as a colonial power and changing the previous dependence Europe had on trade over land, which, remember, was pretty dangerous.
Right.
Vasco da Gama left Portugal with 4 ships on his first voyage in 1497, rounded the Cape of Good Hope, and traveled up the African coast, arriving in the trading port of Calicut, India, in May, on this day in May of 1498. He was warmly received, though failed to establish permanent relations. After an arduous journey home, he returned to Portugal in August of 1499 to a hero's welcome, including the noble title of Dome. Mm-hmm. India, David James says, Vasco da Gama, yep, they all got it. Gordon Smith, our usual people, experts, brainiacs. Gordon Smith, David James, Clark Chapin's usually in that crowd. Historic event, on this day in history, Portuguese explorer Vasco da Gama arrives at Calicut, becoming the first European to reach India by sea.
Is Calicut Calcutta?
No, that's a good question. Well, let's see if I want. Can you dig that up, or one of the Fuzzy will dig that up for us? Okay, that's what happened on this day in history. Now, as promised, we've got our third episode, our third edition of Alistair's awesome Aussie anecdotes. Alistair Murray, AM, who's quite a good friend. He's been on the show a couple times, right? And he is vice president of Australian Sailing, or Sailing Australia, whatever it's called. Why can't I never remember what it's called? And he writes about his experience in this country. Can you guess what country that is, Julia?
Looks like Holland.
It is Holland. Well done. Calcutta is not on the ocean, Clark Chapin says. That is the Amsterdam Flower Market, not to be confused with their auction, which takes place in part in and around this market. But this is the famously cool, I've been there, I'm sure you have too, Julia, the Amsterdam Flower Markt in the Netherlands. And that is Alistair Murray in the middle. And he says in this week's 4A, Alistair's awesome Aussie anecdote, he says, the absolute joy for me from my many years in the sailing industry has been the people I have met and the friendships I have forged. Yep, because sailors are cool, aren't they? Last week, I paid tribute to Tom Slingsby. This week is a very different character, and his name is Louis. Pedro, foiling sailor, requested this one last week, so this is for you, Pedro.
Aha.
Peter Stevenson. Around 35 years ago, I started to attend the Mets trade show. And if those of you in the business...
Marine equipment, he says.
Yeah, the marine equipment, we used to have here in the States one, and maybe it still is in Chicago, at the, whatever that McCormick place is. But Mets, which is the international trade show, the marine equipment trade show, is massive, and everybody who's anybody in the marine trade is there. Unlike most of the other shows we did, there are no boats at this one. Mets stands for Marine Equipment Trade Show. So equipment it is. And of course, Ron Stan, the company which he headed for many years, still is executive chairman, competes with Harkin and any number of other companies. We realized when we started exhibiting just how much competition we had, counting something like 50 manufacturers of sailboat blocks, pulleys. There's nothing like a great competition, though. Part of the scene at this and all trade shows is the unwinding. I like that word. That sounds like we have all sorts of euphemisms for having a cocktail, having a party. It's unwinding now. Maybe we'll have to use that one. Part of it is unwinding at the end of the day, and we at Ronston were no exception in looking for some fun. You see this, the smallest pub in town, and that's Louis on the right, the owner. One night we wandered into a little bar called Louis's Bar and met Louis. It claimed to be the smallest pub in town. There was a great vibe, great beer, good music, and the steepest spiral staircase to the restrooms up there that claimed at least a few lives each year. Louis took a liking to us, and we started to invite our friends, lots of them, to join us. After a couple of years, Louis handed me the keys to the bar, and I became that barman. a role I proudly played for around 25 years, pouring the beers, conducting the sing-alongs, dancing on the bar, you name it. Patrons thought I owned the place and that Louis worked for me, and that's what we told them, and that is true. That whole scene was unbelievable. And even the Harkin people and others were over there because it was the best evening act in town before or after you went to dinner. There's a quite young-looking Alistair Murray there on the right. I don't know who the gentleman is on the left, a patron. I don't think that's Louis, but maybe it is. So the Ronstand Bar became iconic as the place to go, and we used to pack it out every night with crowds spilling into the street. Everybody at the show the next day used to talk about the great Ronstand Bar and the fun that was had there. That is true. To cut a long story short, it was a hit year in and year out. We developed a firm friendship. Yeah. Alistair and Louis. When Louis in his Ronstand shirt. We featured Louis as one of our staff members in the Ronstand catalog. I proposed to my wife, Tracy, on his bar. Louis and his wife came to our wedding in Thailand, and we stay at each other's houses and we go out. This is what sailing is all about, isn't it? You think of the judges you've housed here.
Yes.
In this, in here at what is now the Beach Street Yacht Club.
Right.
And you're still in touch with all. I mean, people from Australia, people from Europe.
Yeah.
Famously good people, cool people I've known judging and so on. I had no idea that they stayed here. People used to tell me it was marketing genius and suggested we replicated it at other shows around the world by finding a small place and doing similar. I said we wouldn't even contemplate it, as it wasn't an idea or a smart concept. It simply grew out of a friendship, a great friendship, and was unique. It's just what our sport and cool people like Alistair are all about. Alistair's awesome Aussie anecdotes number, I guess this is 4, isn't it? We've got another one.
Yeah, that's
He's actually got another one in the can. I have another one from him. So
yeah,
great guy. Thank you, Alistair. Julia?
No, there are lots of great stories to be told, and that's one of them. Yeah.
Okay, well, now the comments are still flowing in here. Calicut is a town on the west coast of India, Ted Ryman is telling us. I seem to remember that in Dutch bulb and flower auctions, the price starts high and falls until someone bids. Is that true? Flower Markt in Amsterdam is a few blocks from the red light district, both very colorful. Jonathan Frank, Poppy's anyone. Julie Ahrens, it's really, back on the America's Cup, it's really absurd that there's still a lack of acceptance of Barcelona as the venue. Having the venue in Europe is good for the branding of the Cup as an international sport. The money will not magically appear in New Zealand to fund the event and the team. It was not there a year ago, and it's not there now. Going to court is sour grapes and will not be beneficial to anybody. It will cause an unnecessary loss of time, and it will cost a lot of money. Jody Shields back on the A4. I guess we're going to call it the A4, Julia. Aussies and beers. Does it get any better? Gordon Smith, great anecdotes indeed. Thank you, Alistair. I've had a lot of fun with this gentleman myself when I spoke a couple times at the International Sailing Summit, which he also founded. And that now has morphed into the Sailing Forum, International Sailing Forum, which is carrying on in good shape. Bill Wingrove, replying to Julie Ahrens, the Cup is not a brand. It is a competition. Good money does not make it right. Okay, we move on here to another cool topic, and that is the SSL. They used to call it the Star Sailors League, will still do. SSL Gold Cup is underway in Suiza, in Switzerland, and the SSL, this is a press release I got from them today, Gold Cup qualifying series round 1 has started yesterday, the 19th, with 2 groups of 4 teams racing in Grensen on Lake Neuchâtel in Suiza. Only 2 teams of each group will go through and access the final series scheduled in October and November at a location to be announced next week. Anybody want to guess where that is? You want to guess?
Lago de Garda.
I don't know. I'm not at liberty to say. You will find below the embed codes for the live coverage. I've got them for you in a sec, because they have live streaming tomorrow, May 21st, and Sunday, May 22nd at, I think, 11 a.m., 1100 UTC, or maybe local time, but it's early in our morning. 2 days, last days of racing. It would be great if you could share on your platforms, which I am doing now. The live streaming, they say, uses the latest, best technology, using stabilized cameras on the water, on board, drones, live commentary on the water, and interviews between races with tracking and graphics. They have done a good job with their SSL, the Star Sailors League starboats, in Nassau. in December each year.
Yeah.
They've done a very good job with the TV, so I hope it's at least as good as that. There will be daily news and results posted on goldcup.starsailors.com. You can also follow the action from Switzerland via the following official SSL Gold Cup social media channels. You can write this down, but you can also just Google SSL Gold Cup, and up will come all these links. They're doing it also vertical on Instagram, so that's interesting. Now, here is their, I got to go to camera 4 here to try to explain this. What's going on now in Switzerland are these qualifying series of all these countries: Antigua, Bermuda, Puerto Rico, I can't even see all the little letters, Belgium, Estonia, Ireland, Serbia, and so on, all the way to Cuba, Guatemala, a lot of countries involved, Mexico. So this is a bit like the World Cup soccer, the Soccer World Cup football. And this is the preliminary stuff going on May 19th and through July 17th, 2022. So it's going on as we speak. Then the teams coming out of here, the top 2 teams come out of, I guess, each of these little groups and fill in these blanks here, if I remember correctly. Sorry, I'm getting a bit off mic here. For the 132nd finals, October 29 to November 2nd, that's this blank list, these teams coming forward. Then they start getting seeded into, they start then moving forward against teams that have been seeded based on the standings in the SSL. They have this big ranking of countries as well as sailors.
Really interesting and good job with that.
Well, they've tried. I think they've got the sailors wrong because they got Pete Burling as the number 1 sailor for weeks and weeks and weeks, and he can't be the number 1 sailor in the world after what's been going on Sail GP and so on. But nonetheless, the country's ranking, I think you're right, Julie, has been quite good. So that, let me go down to cam 4 again so I can shoot the monitor here. And you can see these countries, Austria, Finland, Hungary, Croatia, Israel, Canada, Japan, are seated in here. Then there's some more that are even seated further into the 8th finals, which are in November 8th to 12. This is earlier in November. USA, Argentina, Poland, Brazil, Switzerland, Norway, Sweden, and France. The more powerful nations have, based on their ranking, have gone forward. And then the quarterfinals, here's still another seeding: Great Britain, Denmark, Germany, Netherlands, New Zealand, Australia, Italy, and España. So you got to win if you're the U.S. against Argentina and whoever comes forward from below that to get in here against these. And it's the top 2 teams out of each of these brackets that moves forward. And it's some number of races. I don't know if it's 3 races, whatever it is. So it's a World Cup of sailing to determine, they say, the best sailing nation in the world. The sound cut out. Maybe when I moved off mic a little bit. Oh, the sound looks good here. Check your sound, Edward. Everybody still have sound? Thanks, Tom. That was great. Offer a ride now. We're going to run your joke, Alistair, at the end in Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. He's got a good joke. Julie's been warming up her finger wagging for his for his joke. The SSL should be forced to race their finals in Auckland, Stingray says. SSL, an awesome venue. Yes, branding is a marketing term. In order for the interest to grow in the America's Cup, it must grow in interested fan acceptance. Julie, I really love your comments and your enthusiasm for this, but the America's Cup is a challenge cup that was given under a deed of gift back in 1857. That is a challenge cup between 2 yacht clubs. And it's not a cup that somebody can hijack and sell to the highest bidder. And there's no accountability for the money and where it's going. Sorry. Clark Chapin, I like the World Cup, but there are a bunch of teams that are seeded and don't need to do these Yes, true, Clark Chapin.
But they do have to do the qualifying rounds.
Well, no, all these countries do, but there's these teams, these countries are all up here.
Yeah.
Don't have to qualify until later on. So these weaker countries, which don't, in theory, Republic of South Africa is a strong sailing country, but apparently haven't been strong in whatever ranking system these guys have come up with to rank the country. So all these countries have to qualify. These are some of the lower qualifiers, Canada, Japan, we said. The U.S. is not even in the top group of qualifiers. But, you got to start somewhere. So I give them credit. I think it's okay.
Yeah.
In fact, Bravo Zulu.
Well, I mean, everybody does have a chance.
They do have a chance. I mean, it's like in the professional leagues here. You'd get the lower teams. They have a one game to decide who's going to move forward into the playoffs, the best of four, best of seven, rather, playoffs. So, you've got to that gets more clubs involved at the lower level. The comments are still coming. So which club won the last AC and what did that club decide to do? Gordon Smith saying in the comments. Well, that club delegated, I would say, and I think our friends at Kiwi Home Defense would say they delegated their authority to Emirates Team New Zealand. You didn't see anybody from the club there when they made the decision and the announcement in Barcelona, did you? Mm-mm. Do you think that the club had anything to do with that decision? Do you think they blessed that decision? Or do you think Daltz made that decision? They said, hey, you're going to give us some money in return for us turning the operation of the Cup over to you. That's what one hears is going on. But, we'll see, especially if this does go to court and if it comes out in the wash, if it comes out in discovery and so on. Don Linabos, greetings from Sonoma. Hats off to all the folks in any sport who make it a race. Fritz Muller, totally agree. I think it's cool. I think this is a cool thing. I hope it works out for them. Bravo Zulu. And we shall see, Julia. Mm-hmm. I'm going to watch the TV this weekend.
Yeah.
And I tell me if I'm wrong. I think it is 1100 local time in Switzerland, so that would be -9 here, so it'd be 0200 our time. I'm not going to get up at 0200. I'll watch it in replay.
Yeah.
Which is what you can do. You can watch it in replay.
Right.
Okay, so some Bravo Zulus to, we keep talking about how classes should, and clubs, but classes should be putting out video. Well, here are 3 that have put out just in the last couple of days. In fact, one video came just before we went to air. Not quite as literally before we went to air as John Emmons' video. Jeez. But cool stuff. And the first one is from, this is the IQ Foil Europeans. I think this is. Let's go have a look at it. Cool stuff. Yeah, IQ Foil Europeans in Trentino, Lago di Garda. Fritz, I wondered if that was a rabbit start too. I saw that powerboat going across the fleet that looked like, I don't think so, but it may have been some kind of a boat, a general recall flag boat, that goes by one of the umpire boats, judges' boats, and waves code X or code something, the general recall for the first repeater. But nice stuff. This IQ Foil is a great change for the Olympics. Everybody's happy about it. The Kiwis pushed it hard, and it's nice to see everyone embracing this. It's helping windsurfing. It's helping our sport, I think. I'm convinced. So I'm glad to see it. Congratulations to this class and the Circolo Surf Tourmalet, I guess it is, the Tourmalet Surf Club at there on Lake Garda. Great stuff. The next one is the Formula Kite. I'm not so wild about this class, as you know, but they're having their Kite World Youth Championship. And this is an interesting and nice video, some interviews with the kids, and it's just nice to see our sport being enjoyed by young people.
Hello guys, my name is Marcos. I represent the Brazil. It's my first World Championship and I'm very excited. The wind today is good and let's do it.
It's my first World Championship. I started kiting because I live on the front of the beach and a lot of people kite in Brazil. And then one time when I was smaller, I came to my dad and said, hey dad, give me this from birthday. And then I started kiting with 9 years. I think that kite surfing has like a own feeling. Is the speed, you kite with your friends is just on the sport that have it.
This is my first ever World Championship. Well, for me, it's to be in Alpha of the Fleet. This is my main goal for this competition. And later on the season, and even on this Olympic cycle, is to go to the Olympics, right? Representing my own country, Portugal.
This is the first day of my first World Championship and I feel a bit nervous. I'm focusing on my performance and try to do my best, and hopefully it works and I get good results.
It's my first time here in Sardinia. I think the conditions are very tricky because in the morning it's no wind and then the wind comes and then it's shortly off and then it comes from the other side. So it's tricky, but it's okay.
Sardinia, one of the great regatta, like Lake Garda. I mean, just fantastic. Icarus Sports, you've all been commenting about how nice these videos were. Good stuff. Before we go to the Finn Gold Cup, I just want to say, Julia, that a federal judge, I've just gotten a notification, a federal judge has blocked the title, whatever it is, the thing that was coming off on Monday to let people stream across the borders from the South.
Oh,
federal judges blocked that, so at least
finally
put that on hold. So that's for Americans who are concerned about the southern border. This is
$1.5 million
some good news
in the last 6 months.
Okay, so sorry about U.S. local politics. This is the Finn Gold Cup that's going on Malchazina, at Malchazina, also on Lake Garda, and what a terrific class. I think they have 100 and I don't know how many boats. They got a big Finn U.S. National Championship about to take place here in the U.S. that some of you will know about, but have a look at this cool video.
Great conditions. I'm looking forward to the last day of it. Oh, it was all nice. I mean, the first start was not the best, but could figure it out quickly and go to the right side of the lake. The Garda came back. I mean, the Garda weather came back. The machine broke, but now it's alive again, I think. I will keep sailing Finn because I'm too big for other boats, and I love this, love the power and love the atmosphere, love the people, and yeah, I'm looking forward to what's gonna be next for it.
Was a windy day with free pumping in the last race. Good fight with Donkos in the last downwind. He's so speed and strong, like a good John Sailor. And now I'm so happy because we were training so hard in La Coruña this winter. and I'm so happy with the results. The thing for me is well, a very important part of my life, because I learn a lot of this class, and like a person, like a sport, and I want to continue sailing in maybe Miami in the next Fingal Cup, and perhaps everybody comes to continue sailing. This event is we are in Lake Garda. This is a beautiful place. The organization is perfect, and we'll come back another thing event here. The thing is the boat, okay? Because he's for people from 80 kilos to 100, and for all the age. It's perfect.
I don't even know who's. I thought I knew who was winning, and then I had another video in here, and then this latest one came out literally just before we went to air, and I said, "Well, I'll stick it in," but I wasn't sure who was leading. But you get guys from Spain, you get these kids from Germany and from Brazil. Carlos Aviz is giving us some links to what's going on, and everybody here, not everybody, people are saying, but I thought the Finn class was not popular enough for the Olympics.
I know. Why?
110 plus boats there. I think it's 111, Fritz Mueller, Julia.
Yeah. Why again was the Finn?
Yeah, exactly.
Kicked out.
Frank. Well, isn't it time we created our own Fozy Olympic slate? Yeah, Gordon Smith. Well, we did that at one time. John Emmett replying to Jonathan Frank, because sailing does not have a large enough athlete quota. Good point, John Emmett. I don't know. I think at some point, somebody will run some kind of an event with the Star class, the Finn class, tell me what else.
Yeah.
And run it all in the same place and get all the top sailors in those classes together right here in San Francisco Bay, for example. Or you could do it at Garda, you could do it in a number of places, and maybe bring in a couple of the other traditional boats and just have a big festival of sailing with these fabulous classes. I guess they could do it in Miami next year. They've got the Stars sail and race in Miami regularly, and you got the Fingal Cup going to Miami next year. But what a great class and great organization, and there's no better place to sail.
Was that a political move?
To
get the Finn out of the Olympics?
Well, we remember they've only got so many spaces, and the IOC wanted to get the urban games. They wanted to have kiting. They wanted to have the AC37. They wanted to get heavy traditional slow Finn class, which has been in the Olympics since 56.
Yeah.
56, is that right? I can't remember. So, yeah. Julie Aarons is going on about the cup. I'll get a call from her after the show. You watch. Sailing Neo-Olympics, Don Lunabos is saying. Yeah, I don't know. Star, Finn, a chunky monkey regatta. But look at all the people in our sport that turn out for these fabulous classes. But I like the IQ foil. I like to see what's going on in that class. The windsurfer, it's a modern windsurfer, and to be fair, the Finn and the Star have also modernized a lot since those boats originally came out, and they're cool boats that attract the marketplace. Works. Let the marketplace, speak. 470 class is good traditional boat, and men and women. Now you're forcing the two together, and the participation with one man, one woman on the boat gone down a lot. You got the AC37. It's sort of okay, one man, one woman, and I like mixed events. That's how we grew up sailing. Everybody, we didn't care about women sailing, men sailing. We all sailed together. Right, Julia?
I'm not listening. I'm sorry.
What are you doing? Looking at comments?
Yeah.
But Julie Aarons, will you take the call? Not this afternoon, Julie. I'm going to eat lunch and I'm going to take a nap. If the kites get their own federation, that will free up medals that we need to rebalance the Olympic event. I like that word, Clark, rebalance. At club level, you get a huge amount of mixed sailing. Yes, indeed, John Emmett. Exactly right, and I like it. That brings us to the D block, to the final Whiskey Tango Foxtrot segment, although I do have a little bit in the finish line for you. Our one, Julie, you ready?
Yes.
It's clean, sort of.
Sort of.
This from Alistair, Chairman of Ron Stan and Vice President of Australian Sailing. Good day, Tom and Julia. This came subsequently to his anecdote. I'm expecting a finger wag from Julia, but I figured it's okay as she submitted the Tesla cookies without cream. Huh?
Yes.
You did do that. That was your submission, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know I'm a mad keen cyclist, and you have been talking about cyclors on boats again lately, meaning the America's Cup. So I hope you enjoy this, Alistair. Okay, you ready for the reveal?
Okay.
Well, I bought the bike and I bought all the kit. How do you think I look? The bike and the kit. You get it?
Oh, yes.
You look like a dick. She won't say it. Anybody that goes in and buys, it's like people who are streamers and they think they've got to go in and buy all the best gear right away and fancy, expensive cameras and fancy, expensive mic. You don't have to do that. And fancy, expensive lights. You got to have decent stuff, and you learn. Come on, Julia. It's funny.
It is.
Give him a finger wag, kind of a half finger wag. Come on, that's you, Dick. Check the shadow, John Emmett. You think we needed that? You think we really needed that?
Yes.
As my friend Matt Bounds once said, and Matt Bounds he won the U.S. What's it called, Julia? I better get us off this picture before we get.
Yeah.
Matt Bounds, who is from Michigan and is a great race officer, won the St. Pete Trophy for running one of the top regattas. I can't remember even now what it was, Thistle Nationals or something. He says, as he's a good friend of Clark's, he says, we need more women sailing. Otherwise, at the parties, there's too much farting and scratching.
I agree.
Now you can shake your finger at Clark for that one. Clark.
Oh, that's gospel truth, though.
Oh, it is? Jody's back. I don't know what comment, Jody. He won't share his. I don't share my cell number with anybody, Cord, but people still find a way. John Emmett, yep, reminds me of when I bought my brother a purple cycle helmet. Oh, Graham. Okay, we better move forward. Okay.
And I resemble that comment.
Yeah, I said that. Okay, that brings us to this last little bit, the finish line, and just to say that there's another cool thing going on. You talk about professional, sponsored, booming part of our sport, which is one of the reasons I want to do this Alaska thing next, because that's it's kind of an offshore adventure series. But you see this, Julia, the Vendée crowd are now running. Remember, they ran that Vendée at something else. Now they're running the Vendée. This is, I think, the second edition, the Vendée Atlantique. And it's starting on June 12th. I'd never heard of this, but apparently I think it's the second time around. They'll start there in France. They'll go up counterclockwise around Iceland. And the 25 skippers will then face the 3,500 miles of a channel. That's the total course of this unprecedented course, which would take them on a race of discovery to the northern waters of the Arctic Circle. Now, is there ice up there this time of year?
Usually.
I wonder.
Global warming, there probably isn't now.
You mean climate change?
Yes.
Aren't you a big believer in there not being huh?
Yeah.
Well, Ed Worley is saying the iceberg dodging course. So that's happening. We're going to follow that starting. And look at they got 25 teams, 25 sailors, including a lot of those sailors that we follow.
Yeah.
Jeremy Bayou, we've been following. Louis Burton, we've been following.
Yeah.
Charlie Delan, Pip Hare.
Yeah.
So, it's a cool group of people. Thomas Rouillant, linked out, Damien Seguin, I guess it is. So there's, this is not just a bunch of croutons. This is a pretty good group.
Absolutely.
And this group is active. You got to give these Imoca 60s full marks and their sponsors and everything else that's going on. Bravo Zulu. If you have a digital clock, how do you know which way is counterclockwise? Jody Shield.
Run it backwards.
We should cover this. Okay, Jonathan Frank, we will cover. Vendée Arctic race too damn cold. Joyce Chiarella out in Hawaii says, it's good that they're rounding Iceland to port, although your father would want, my dad has a fetish for starboard roundings. This should be an interesting ocean regatta, Ed Worley says. We'll follow it. Maybe we'll do a watch party at some point if the starting time is convenient. Replying to Jody Shea, especially in the Pip Harry. Yeah, exactly, Alan Long. So Bravo Zulu. This is going to be interesting. We'll follow that. Also, again, just to remind you, we have the director of this movie, Race to Alaska, coming on next Tuesday. Zach Carver is his name. He'll be live via Skype from, I guess, L.A., somewhere, down in the southern part of our beloved golden state of California. Julie, who's going to win the basketball game tonight?
It's going to be very tight, but Warriors will win.
You Texans were cheering against your team. Sorry to say, the Dallas Mavericks. Julia, your witness.
Yes. There's so much good stuff on this program that somebody would like to see. So please like, follow, and share especially.
Indeed. And, of course, comments are welcome, too, even in replay. As you all know, speaking of comments, France rules the waves in this modality. There's a nice discipline, modality. I like modality. Fritz Muller saying, looking forward to the film director. Warriors, go Warriors. Clark Chapin. Yeah, we're cheering for the Warriors.
Yeah.
Everything stops around. That's why I have to take a nap so I can get fired up for the game. Support us, if you would, please, on Patreon, patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. Help us keep the lights on. Julia, any final thoughts?
No, I think we have to remember to keep on sailing.
What a wonderful community. We always say this at the end of the show. We're grateful for all the FOSI and the great events that we have in our beloved sport. Fritz Miller asking, what about the World 1000? Are they still sailing that in Hobie Cats? What do they race that in up the coast from Florida up to Virginia? I don't know. They do a lot of stopping, and it seems like, I don't know. Yeah, I know it's a serious race, but it's never really something that we've had people ask us questions about. So maybe we should look into the World 1000 at some point now that it's back on. Thanks, everybody. Bobby Steele, 99. I wonder what that means. Okay, done with the comments. We hope to see you on Tuesday. Have a great weekend wherever in the world you are. In the meantime, sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. Ciao for now.